Okay, well, super thrilled. Mike Repsch, president of Dark Star Pictures, is here with us today. So, Mike, thank you very much for making time for this.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, I am very excited for this discussion for a lot of reasons. But I have to say, out of the gate, even when we started the call, I kind of mentioned this before we started recording, but your curation is like very well aligned with my taste. So, thank you for choosing really interesting movies.
It makes me happy to hear that. That's what we aim to do.
Yeah. How much, I mean, I noticed a lot of the stuff that y'all do is newer films. How much time of the year are you in festivals?
More time than my wife would like.
Uh,
But,
yeah.
it's always kind of been that way. I mean, when I got in the business, it was really, a big part of the allure was, traveling to film festivals to see, not only the films there, but the experience of different festivals, which is, I still find to be very interesting, as I, kind of venture between the large ones I attend every year to the smaller ones. But I'm
Yeah.
probably at a festival a month, approximately. As Dark Star grows and hopefully continues to grow,
Mhm.
I'll have more coverage, from my team. But there's basically one a month, that we end up hitting. Actually, we're in the coming up in the rare August month where I don't have one, so that's kind of a nice little break. Also happens to be one of the hotter months in LA, so it is what it is.
Wouldn't mind being in somewhere in northern Canada for a while. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
well, that's a pretty good segue. So let's talk about Dark Star picks, because just on the off chance that people that only know you as an OC and partner label don't realize this, Dark Star is in a lot more than just Blu-ray publishing, right? So can you
Yes,
give
sir.
just like a 30-second background, or just like a quick background on kind of all the different mediums and places where you can see a Dark Star picture?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started the company in 2018. Well, really 2017. Our first releases came out in 2018,
Okay.
and you can find our films pretty much everywhere you watch, content digitally. We're obviously very committed to physical media and bringing out collectible goods, but at this point, our library of titles is at about 50 films, and they're readily available anywhere you can rent or watch movies. You'll find a lot of our films on Shutter. They're a great partner of ours, for streaming. You'll find a lot of our movies now populating into the Tubi worlds and Pluto's and 3D, where you can watch them free with ads. But we're big proponents of making our films available widely, because people watch things all over the place. And our hope is always that, someone will stream a film and then I'll come back and, want to discover more. And that's, what our Blu-rays really do, service. If you look at a film like The Last Matinee,
Yeah.
which was one of our first releases with OCN, we, that Blu-ray has Maxi, the filmmaker's first feature film on it, which was never released anywhere in the U.S.
Amazing.
All of his short films, like every one that we could fit on the disc, we got them all subtitled, for the first time, because he is a Uruguayan filmmaker, and it's really just a great history of him as a young filmmaker. He's a young man, not even 30 years old, and we just thought it would, that kind of thing is beautiful about physical media. So you can watch a movie on Shutter, and then you can go explore all of his work, as well as a beautiful Blu-ray version of it on that physical good. So, but yeah, generally speaking, you can find our films on iTunes, Amazon, all of the above. Anywhere you watch films digitally, we're there. So that's where
Oh,
what we do.
I love that story. And I noticed that you also partner with other physical media companies, right? So I think Arrow put out a version of Last Matinee, but I saw it was a Dark Star Pictures kind of partnership there.
That's right. Yeah. So we represent our films in the U.S. and Canada primarily, but
Okay.
depending on who the filmmaker is and kind of how we work with them, we will help them, go, get out there in a fun way. Actually, there's a film of ours called Dementor, which we have not done a physical release on because we signed we signed that in the UK with Arrow, and Arrow did an amazing version of the Blu-ray, and we just brought it into the US. Via them, we opened the door for them to sell it here because, they really, are, they're a great company and they put out great releases. And we looked at it and said, well, we can't do anything better than this release. So, for us, it's not a money thing. I'm not in this business to get rich off of people's films. We really just want to showcase, filmmakers' work and get it out there in a meaningful way.
It definitely shows. I mean, let's just hang on with Last Matinee for 1 second since we started talking about that, because I want to get into some of these releases. But the thing that jumped out to me is that's a film that may not have been seen without y'all championing it, right? Some kid or relatively young man in Uruguay who is probably doesn't have international connections, right? But made a hell of a slasher. Like, that movie is great.
Yeah, we were blown away by. I mean, I saw that film. I was really blown away, and that was one of the rare ones where it really didn't have much festival exposure. Even, we kind of came on board and helped Maxi get more festival play, but it came to me via a recommendation. Wound up in my, on my desk. I say my desk, but really it's my digital desk these days.
Sure.
With a screener link, and it was just like, wow, what an amazing, ode to Giallo, right? I mean, it was just like, and the kills, I mean, are extremely unique, practical effects, really done in one location, and like a memorable killer, and it just, he hit all the right notes, and I was just blown away by what he was able to do with a very low amount of money. Of course, your dollar goes further in Uruguay, but it's
Right.
still, I mean, a young filmmaker, scrapping it together. It's just really, really what we're about. We wanted to put those kind of things out there, and Maxi now, I'm very happy to say he has signed with an agent. He has representation now in the U.S. He has since moved to Spain, where there's a few more opportunities for him. He did have some family out there, but there's a few more opportunities out there. And we're looking at doing another project together, from the script stage. So I'd like to think we really helped get that film out there and get him out there by proxy. And that's exactly what we want to do. Those are the kind of stories that make me happy as a distributor, as a distribution partner, and as an ally to filmmakers.
Well, I do want to get into the story of just how you got connected with OCN and your background and some of that. But since you said that, let's talk really quickly, if you're okay, about another one that I just was stunned that more people weren't talking about. So Kokodi Kokoda is your second release. And it's Swedish, not Finnish, right? It's a Swedish film?
Correct.
Okay. That movie fucking blew me away. Like, I've never seen a tone that was so dark yet had this kind of, child fairy tale sort of main storyline, but was basically just like, the way I tell people is it's like the worst part of Funny Games caught in Groundhog Day. Where
Yep.
it's just
That's perfect.
And I was just watching this, are they gonna go back? Oh no, they're gonna go back. Oh my God. And that movie's amazing. So how are you finding, how did you find that one? And what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so that is probably, I hate to play favorites, but that was a real, that one moved the needle for me when I saw it. It was a movie
Yeah.
I had to have. I think, we had so many creative ideas, that came through when I saw that movie. But it was actually, it was repped by a sales company, that one, a company that's no longer exists, unfortunately, called Stray Dogs out of France. It was, there was a
Okay.
young sales guy, Nathan Fisher, who I became very close with, and he was a young sales guy. I was a young distributor, so we found a lot of similarities, and we both like to drink beer, so we got to
Right.
hanging out, and that was his first Sundance title, so he got it into Sundance.
Okay.
I was in Park City as a Frenchman, coming from Paris to Park City, Utah. He was a little bit of a fish out of water, and we had already become friends, at
Uh-huh.
various other festivals. So we hung out, and we just kind of like gave him the rundown on, I gave him the rundown on how I saw that film coming, and he loved it, and we ended up, being able to partner up on it. That was one where, again, it was like, man, it just sticks with you. And at first you read it, you're reading the synopsis and the title, and it's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
You don't know really what to expect. And then, I just watching it, I couldn't get it out of my head. I couldn't get the song out of my head. It's a shame
Right.
that ringtones aren't a thing anymore. I wanted to do a campaign with the song as a ringtone, but people don't do that anymore. But it was, it was just that was really a movie where I was like, man, we're at the beginning of the company. It was something that's like, this is the kind of film that we want to put out there. A lot of distribution companies are scared by, foreign language titles. People don't want to read subtitles, or they want, to dub them. We've never been that way. I personally
Yeah.
have not, I won't dub a film. Like, there might be an instance later down the line where it makes sense to dub a film after it's had, it's kind of day in the sun with its subtitles. But I'm a purist in that, it needs to be seen, how the filmmaker intended it to be seen,
Yeah.
and I think, when I saw Coco de Coco, I was like, man, this really is something that is, if this isn't a Dark Star title, I don't know what is, and what we want our brand to be. So,
Yeah.
it was exciting, and it's still exciting to me. I still have the poster up on it. It was a bummer because we released it. It was at the beginning of COVID, basically. So we had a really robust theatrical plan for that movie, which I was excited for
Uh,
people to see it on the big screen. And like, we had the
yeah.
IMC Center in New York. We had, Lemley Theaters out here in LA. We had the Draft House guys on board, because it played every festival under the sun. People, were talking about it. And, then
Yeah.
COVID hit, like, a week before
Uh,
we were supposed to come out. It was like the full shutdown, and South by Southwest got canceled, and
yeah.
everything was
Yeah.
falling apart, and we lost our theatrical, which I was super bummed about. But because I want people to see our films in theaters as hard as it is to get people to come to theaters these days. But that was kind of a bummer on that. But outside of that, that's just a really exciting film that still excites me to this day, as you can see, years later. So.
Well, it's funny because maybe this is a good segue into Vinegar Syndrome. So I think people were surprised with what Justin and that team kind of did with OCN, because at first some of the titles coming out didn't seem to fit the Vinegar Syndrome, sort of expectation. But
Yeah.
what OCN has become is like this amazing home for foreign movies. I mean, like I don't know that I've ever seen one central login where you can go and get a Wojciech Hawks movie, and then a Gaspar Noé film, and then Coco de Cocoda, and then check out and then leave.
Right.
Like, it's
Yeah.
insane, right? So how did y'all get connected with them, and kind of what's that story of that
Sure,
partnership?
sure. So I knew Justin back from when he was programming the Draft House in
Yeah, yeah,
Yonkers. And like, I was at my previous company, before I started Dark Star. And we had worked on, I had played a lot of films with him, mainly weekend screenings with like cool, weird shit that we both liked. And it was very clear that we had, the same taste.
yeah.
When he kind of started over, with OCN, with Vinegar Syndrome, and then starting kind of the OCN, arm, was kind of the right time, because we, as Dark Star, we had been releasing films digitally, not really in the physical media space just yet, because it's expensive, and
Sure.
it's risky, and the popular kind of narrative around the business side of this is that, like, oh, it's a declining business. The company I was at before I started Dark Star, they were a company that was heavily reliant on physical media, and it was really, kind of dark days as that business continued to dwindle
Mhm.
away. But I always tell people, look, it's a $10 billion business. It takes a long time for $10 billion business to go completely away. But it was really just about kind of like pivoting focus, right? And
Yeah.
we had, at that time, there was a consultant and still a very good friend of mine who's a producer, Josh Goldblum. He produced the VHS. He produces the VHS franchise. He just did Kids vs. Aliens. Very cool guy. Philly guy. We connected. We connected actually on the jury of the Philly Film Festival, and I brought him in because he has great ideas. He's very much, we think the same way about film. We have the same taste, in film. I brought him in to help me kind of find films for Dark Star, and then also some strategic partnerships. And one of them was, hey, Vinegar Syndrome is doing this thing with OCN. You've got some cool releases. We should talk to them, and then Josh kind of linked that up. And I had not realized that it was Justin there. And
nice.
so we were reconnected that way, and it was kind of like instant, where it was like, hey, what's your slate? What do you got coming up? What might fit? And I'm a customer. I'm a Vinegar Syndrome customer. Used to go to Cinepocalypse. Josh also used to run a festival called Cinepocalypse at the Music Box in Chicago, all genre films.
Nice.
And Vinegar Syndrome would be a vendor there, and I would go and I'd buy I try to cut a deal with them. If I buy 10, can I get one for free kind of thing? And because I'm a consumer. I'm a consumer of Criterion stuff. I'm a consumer of Vinegar Syndrome stuff, Arrow stuff. That's me. So for me, it was like, wow, I kind of fanboyed about it, right? Like, oh, well, now we could do my films this way. This would be amazing. This is what I want. So it was a natural fit, when we had that conversation. Plus, it was serendipitous that I had worked with Justin before. We had that similar taste. And then, it was like, well, here's my slate upcoming. And he's like, whoa, this is a no-brainer. Let's also go back and revisit some stuff, and that's where you see like Attack of the Demons. Attack of the Demons was like our third release, digitally. And we went and revisited that. To do it because, we thought it would be a cool one, construction paper horror film. So, so it's like, and we're still doing that. I mean, we actually just released Queen of Hollywood Boulevard, which was our second ever Dark Star release, on digital. So we went back and revisited that, got with Orson, the filmmaker, who's now, gone on to make 4 or 5 films since then, put together some short films and stuff that was cool, to kind of like touch base with him. That movie stars his mother. So we had them do a commentary with him and his mother, which is like this gritty, weird dynamic. And it's, it's just really cool. And it's like to have that, that was always the vision when I spoke to Justin. It was like, hey, we're going to have new releases, but we'll also have cool stuff that we can revisit from our library, which also kind of re-showcases a filmmaker for us. It just made so much sense. And, then the fanboy in me was kind of perking up. So.
Oh yeah. Well, generally speaking, because Last Matinee was the first release with them, and that came out 2 years ago.
Yes.
1 year ago. 2 years ago, right?
2 years ago, yep.
Which was pretty soon after they got started. Like Dark Star was one of the first partner labels, right? Yeah. So how's it been so far? How's the partnership going?
Oh, we love it. I mean, it's again, from a content perspective, we're aligned and we don't have any friction. I mean, we work with Apple and Amazon and Netflix and all the fun guys. And let me tell you something, none of them are as easy to work with as those CNCs, so from a business perspective, we like that. We like that kind of synergy that we have. In terms of financials, we couldn't be happier. The sales are good. There's a built-in base, right?
Yeah,
I'm part of that base, like when things go out, obviously OCN is different than Vinegar Syndrome, as you alluded to, but there's still, that kind of crowd who are naturally interested in Dark Star content because we at least 70% of our films cater to that consumer to a degree. So we're really, really happy to have them as partners. Our filmmakers love it. We've had a lot of filmmakers who are fans of Vinegar Syndrome and want nothing more than to have us partner up, on a Blu-ray release. We released a film called Potato Dreams of America. Potato Dreams of America is a coming of age queer story of a boy who is, came out in Russia, as gay, then moves to Seattle where he can actually come out of his shell. It's a coming of age drama, a queer coming of age drama. Nothing that you would really expect to be in the Vinegar Syndrome line. But Wes, who's the filmmaker, is such a huge fan. In fact, he's such a huge fan that when I talked to Justin about doing that film, he was like, "Well, I have been in touch with Wes, to buy things because he's been buying things and reaching out to the team to talk to them from the Vinegar Syndrome side." So,
That's
so it was
awesome.
like we've got to do it, because we were also able to load it up. We did Wes did 2 web series. We pulled them down from everywhere they were, and they're only available on that Blu-ray, which is like this campy, horror, drag horror thing. But we get things like that where it's like, it really kind of comes full circle for me, where it's like, okay, we're doing things that make filmmakers happy, at Dark Star, and then OCN adds to that, to make our filmmakers even more, excited, to work with us. That's what I'm in this for. Again, it's like, we want to be working with our filmmakers. We're super collaborative with our filmmakers, from top to bottom, from every level of release, and like just to have that kind of excitement come out is something that's it's why I do what I do. So
That's
they
awesome.
add so much, to us, and I just, it's really great. And I'm really thankful that they were so embracing right away. Yeah, they were just starting, but Dark Star wasn't too old of a company, right? So they took a vote of confidence in me, in what we were doing here. So I'm very grateful.
Well, so just building on that, I've seen 4 of your releases, and I do own all of them, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I've been keeping up with you, so I'll continue to do that because I really I just think our tastes align. Um, the way that I kind of see Dark Star now, it's always risky to talk to the president of Dark Star, but I want to see what you think about this, okay?
Sure.
I think for someone who doesn't know much about your label, I want to say this and just see if you agree or what I should change. What I've been saying is it's the kind of movies that people buy from Vinegar Syndrome because they have some nostalgia for them from the 80s or 90s or whatever. But it's a similar vibe. There's always something interesting, unique, edgy. There's always something in it that's sort of different, but it's films that are being made today. So it's like they don't have the benefit of nostalgia, but it's like if you can fast forward 20 years, these would be Vinegar Syndrome titles. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what we shoot for. I mean, most of the time, right? I mean, like there's some exceptions, in things that we do, but you won't see those on the OCN line. These are totally, that's exactly what we're aiming to do. It's like, we want what is film if it doesn't invoke some kind of emotion from someone?
Yeah,
And you can
yeah.
have a nostalgic feeling on a film with it being new. I mean, look at The Last Matinee. I mean, that if that doesn't give you Argento vibes, I don't know what does.
Oh yeah.
In terms of modern filmmaking, and what I'm a cinephile. I got into film because I was watching Kurosawa movies when I was a kid, and I was like growing up in inner city Philadelphia where we don't even have grass. I'm like, what the hell is this world that exists outside of Philadelphia? I grew up in the city, blue collar family. You know what I mean? So it was like, wow, this snapshot into like 19,
Feudal Japan.
exactly. And I'm like, shit, there's other things out there, and you have to read subtitles and it's in black and white and it's 3 hours long. But the Seven Samurai changed my life. But and that's kind of like I want people to get those kind of feelings. And I'm not saying Coco di Kakuda kind of brings you that, but what it does is it brings you, kind of a scope of how people are making films, in different parts of the world. And but also can bring you back to something is like a Groundhog Day. Like, what if there was a fucked up Groundhog Day? I mean, yeah, you
Yeah,
can go watch Happy Death Day, but I mean, look, I don't mind Happy Death Day to be honest with you, but Coco di Crocodile is a more interesting film.
I think so.
It makes you think more, and like that's what we want to do. Is bring that kind of cool stories, cool filmmakers, things that are different that shock people. I mean, we certainly like to shock people, but it's that's really the goal, is to spotlight those voices, bring interesting stories, showcase stuff that people are not seeing, because otherwise, how does a film like that come out? I don't know.
Well, so yeah, there's an interesting thing. We've had two different guests in the time we've been doing this that have really focused on silent films, and one of the things they both say is how up to 50% of silent films are just gone forever, right?
Yeah,
Which
shame.
sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah, it totally sucks. But the thing that I think is interesting is that between the conversation with Big World and then now you, I'm curious because I kind of get this vibe that we're in a similar situation right now with festival movies that are just languishing unless OCN or somebody picks them up.
yeah, yeah. It's tough. I mean, I think there's it's twofold, right? I mean, part of the problem is too many films are being made, and I'm not saying it's a problem that people make films, because you should absolutely make films, and you should make as many films as you possibly can.
Yeah.
But the cost of making a film has dropped significantly, right? I
Okay.
mean, now, even if you want to make a low budget horror movie and use digital effects, I mean, you could even do that on your iPhone if you really want to, right?
Okay.
So like the cost barriers aren't there, and you see a lot more creativity that way, which is great. I mean, you see things like Skinamarink coming that are
Huh?
game changing. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
I mean, it's certainly opens a lot of doors, but then you also just see a glut of content, and unfortunately, from the distribution side, it becomes overwhelming, right? We have, I watch 300 to 400, anywhere between 300 and 400 films a year, you
Uh-huh.
know and but we were only releasing 18 movies this year, if that, right? So I mean, just imagine the amount now. Of course, other people will pick up a lot of those, but I would say half of them will never be seen. And that's not even, maybe they'll get into a small film festival somewhere, and that's what they'll showcase. But like, I always encourage people who are interested in film, check out your local film festival. There are more film festivals than there are days of the year, and you should be checking them out. I mean, check out what's local, support local everything, support your local businesses, but
Uh-huh.
support your local filmmakers and your local film festivals. Check it out, see what's happening. Be a member of the community. I mean, it's like, I think that we have a problem of people not coming out to check stuff out.
Yeah.
But there's nothing from our side that we can do more, in terms of getting those films out there, because there are, it's just, there's so much being made that the cost can be high for us. It ends up costing us more to get a film out into the world, than it
Then
did
it
to
does
make
to make.
it. Which is it's a kind of a catch-22, right? Where you look at that, and it's but again, from our side, we do try to look at as much as possible, and see what's happening and what's cool out there. We just picked up a film. Well, we just released a film called Bad Girl Boogie. Bad Girl Boogie is a transgender slasher film that is made by well, she was at that time 17 years old. She's 18
Okay.
now.
Uh-huh.
And the filmmaker is just incredible. All trans players be in front of and behind the camera, which is amazing.
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
something that you never see. And
Yeah.
but not a film, not a cause-based film, or any. It's just a slasher film. It's a fun slasher movie, and this 17-year-old Australian filmmaker, and it just happened to find its way to me. And now Alice is out there with her new film, which is playing at Fantasia this month. And like she's
Great.
hitting her ground running, but like. I mean, it's just that's the kind of thing that you get excited about. It's like, shit, man. When I was 17, I was trying to figure out how to get beer. Not
I went
go out there and
yes,
make feature films. So it's just
17 years
amazing.
old for me was, let's see, I was about to start college. So I was about to go from dial up to a T1 line, which was the fastest, which meant I could download porn that much faster. That was where my
That's
head was
right.
at
That's right.
17.
Yeah, I remember those dates, my friend.
Not making
So,
not making genre defining movies. Um, This is another comparison I want to make then. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is I just want, if for whatever reason people haven't picked up on Dark Star yet, I'm just trying to draw some parallels to kind of get them excited about it, because I'm
Yeah,
very, very excited about the films in your line. I've seen four movies from Altered Innocence, and holy cow, like I don't even know, the person who runs that company is very private, so I don't even want to mention their name. But like they are releasing some unbelievable filmmakers through that line.
yes.
And truly, like, forget about queer, and I mean, I think most of the films are queer friendly, which is great. But just like surrealism, like the Bertrand Mandico surrealism, he's probably one of the most interesting surrealist filmmakers working today,
Mhm.
period. And like, I hadn't been that excited about movies until I started watching what you're putting out. And I think, it's exciting because there's all this talk, if you read online boards, about how creativity is dying with Marvel, right? That's
Mhm.
kind of like, people complain about that. And it's just not true. Like, you just have
Yeah,
to look outside of, I think maybe the relationship to the theaters is changing, and I don't even mean to get too much into that, which is sad. And I hope that there's a resurgence of that for independent movies. But regardless of that, I think there's these amazing films being made right now. Like, truly, in 5 years, people are going to look back at the 2018 to now, and hopefully on, as like I think a really golden age of kind of independent cinema, because there's so many talented filmmakers working across the world.
great. Yeah, I
Um,
think oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, and I think Dark Star for me has become equal to that, like, in my mind, of that, like, Altered Innocence, or like that, the companies that are, putting out modern filmmakers that are making movies that will become classic films at some point.
Well, thank you. I mean, I love what Altered Innocence does, and we all oftentimes compete for films. A little friendly competition.
Oh, okay.
And that's a for me. It means that we're doing something right. With a young company, because we that is what we strive for. But I think the problem that today's society has presented is that the scale of what the studios put out, from superhero movies to regurgitated, remakes,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
sequels, and franchises, it's jammed down people's throats in a way that it never has been before, because we have so many different media opportunities where it's
Right,
like,
right, right.
I mean, if you just, even just the 90s, it was like, okay, there's a print ad in your local newspaper, you get a couple commercials on TV, and some billboards, and that's really how things are advertised. Now,
Right.
your car is talking to you about it. Your phone is pumping ads down your throat. If you're a Letterbox fan, the Letterbox is advertising, all the latest studio hits. And
Yep.
what it's done is, for the indies, it's created this impossible barrier for us to market in the same way, because that stuff is all
Mm,
controlled space. Those CPMs are dominated, and they're at such a high rate that it does not make financial sense or plausibility, really, for us to advertise against something that's coming out. Like, how can I buy ad space when Barbie has it all? Or is
right.
driving it all up? Not that we're going after the same consumer, but like we kind of are. I mean, there's I don't know much about the Barbie movie, but it's PG-13, and it's not really appealing to kids, right? Like they're
Yep.
trying to go after an indie audience because they've got Greta Gerwig and Noah
Exactly.
Baumbach. And it's like, man, so like even the studios now will take that space and they try to push it in there, right? Or like, I mean, they get, Taka doing, Thor, I mean, Taka's he's an indie guy. I mean, he should be, championing that stuff. And like, I'm not gonna, I don't want to I don't want to smear people because they're taking a payday, and they're giving, creative latitude with big paychecks. Like, all power to you, but it becomes so difficult for us to find those audiences, and we have to be very creative in how we get it out there. And we have to rely on kind of more traditional press outlets, and and kind of gimmick marketing, right? Like to find audiences. It's really difficult because it's just dominated in that space, and the more they're the more kind of digital we become, the more that studios can just kind of completely control the space. I mean,
Oh,
if we're to
interesting.
go in and try to advertise on, say, like Amazon Fire, right? You can buy
Mm,
ad
mhm,
placement
mhm,
on the Fire Stick.
mhm.
The only spaces that become available are like between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. It's a really that's affordable space, because the studios just buy everything else up. Now, that's not awful for us because a lot of our films work really well at 1 a.m.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we're okay with that, and and it's like it is what it is. We just have to work around it, but like that's it's something where audiences are fooled into thinking that that's all there is. That's why studios will dominate theatrical, but it's also the kind of the silver lining is we have more digital services where we can be propped up,
Right, right, right.
and they are algorithmic learning systems, right? So if you look at something like not so much Amazon. Amazon is a little bit algorithmic, but if you look at something like Tubi TV, who's owned by Fox, right? I mean, they're owned by a big corporation, studio,
Mhm,
or what's
mhm,
left of
mhm.
a studio that Disney
Ah,
ravaged. But
right, right,
the Fox,
right.
it's the Fox that's left over, right? So, Tubi is a wonderful partner for us. Their whole shtick is obviously free with ads, right?
Yes, right.
And and what happens there is, yeah, sure, they get the Hunger Games, right? And the Hunger Games will be up on Tubi for maybe a month, right, in between television windows, right? So okay, they've got a license deal with TNT, and it's going to go over to Stars, but there's a month in between it, so they'll window it up onto to Tubi, which is okay. But that's really what you see. You only see the kind of the studio things in that way, and the indies, they do a great job with repopulating all of their folders daily, basically, so that new things are being showcased throughout. And all of those things are based around what people are actually watching within that genre.
Ah,
And
cool.
then to go the step further is, the recommendation. So if you go watch, if you go watch Happy Death Day on Tubi, you'll be recommended Coco di Coco Da, as one of the 10 films afterwards, right? Because there's
Oh,
not too
nice.
many that can be that close to it. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
will find new audiences that way. And in a lot of ways, that goes a lot further than buying up all the ad space on Amazon Fire Stick, because somebody just watched something they liked, and then they're getting recommended a few things. They'll at least check the
Right.
trailers out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so where one door closes, another opens. That's kind of the name of this business. It always has been, and we are fond of that, right? And then of course we have our physical media, and the physical media. We think, well, obviously we put trailers for our other films on there, right? We're
Yeah.
re-promoting, and pushing out what's coming up, what's from the past, and we hope that people will find that. And then, technology is a benefit to us because you can go on IMDb and look up Dark Star Pictures. You can go on darkstarpicks.com, and check out our website. You can see what we've got coming, and you can go through, our library and hopefully find other films that you'll like, then come back, to that source. But that's really counting on, someone to become a fan. We also need casual watchers. Otherwise,
Right.
the independents will cease to exist. So, it's a really, it's always changing, this business, but the kind of where things are today and what drives top line revenues is very, very interesting. How
It's
it's changing.
the way you describe that, when you're talking about the 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. slot. It's so funny how some things like everything old is new again or whatever, like that's just cable,
Exactly. Exactly.
right?
It's
It's
exactly what it is.
just recreated cable, but it's owned by
Yeah.
less people.
Yeah.
Um, that's bizarre. Interesting. Well, what a fascinating glimpse into your world. So, um, you mentioned, uh, well, we were talking a little bit about the filmmakers that are coming out. Um, I do want to call attention to the ones that I was disappointed to see more people hadn't bought Mother Schmuckers. And I think some movies are difficult to sell, or difficult to really understand kind of what they are through through the text on the back, the copy on the back, right?
Yeah.
I think what I saw with Let's see, which one of the guys is named after a Marx brother, right? Is it Grouch? No, it's not.
Harpo.
Harpo. Yeah. Harpo. There you go. They're brothers, right? So it's two
Yes.
brothers. Yeah.
Yes.
What I saw from them is I don't know that I would say Mother Smuckers is like an incredible movie, but what I saw from them was very good comedic timing, and there are some very, very good jokes in it. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that with time, they are gonna be almost like a throwback. I'm trying to like it's almost like late 90s, early 2000 kind of gross out like or R-rated comedy
Yeah.
where they were trying to push the boundaries a little bit. Like I guess people think of Tom
Oh, they
Green.
push some boundaries, Mother Schmuckers.
Yeah. And like there's not a
Yeah.
lot of people doing that right now, but it's good. They're funny. Like it was a funny movie.
Yeah, it's like for me, Mother Schmuckers was always early John Waters kind of shock cinema.
Yeah.
Like that's what hit the nose. I mean, like you can't see it behind me, but there's a Pink Flamingos poster on one of my walls back here, and like I've always been a big fan. Pink Flamingos of Female Trouble. All
Yeah.
the early Water stuff that was like, what the fuck was that? And that was kind of the feeling I had like going into Mother Schmuckers. I mean, they open with they're cooking shit and they eat
Yeah.
like I mean, it's which is like spot on
John
reference
Waters.
to Pink Flamingos, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but it's I watched that. That's another Sundance movie, right? And it was one where it's this interesting French company called BFF, who we work with on a few films now, and there's something really crazy coming for them. I can't talk about it yet, but you'll see it coming. You'll
Okay.
know what I mean. But these guys, and they're actually BFF is backed by this big ass like serious French company that does like Palme d'Or winners regularly, very
Okay.
serious cinema. So like
Uh-huh.
when this came across my desk, I was like, "What the hell?" And then it actually no, I saw it at Sundance first, and then but these guys pitched me before, and I'm like, "What is going on with this?" And I watched it, and I was like, this is a movie. Again, we like this movie because it's polarizing, right? It's like you're going to get a bunch of people who hate this movie, but they're going to like to talk about how much they hate it and how disgusting it is and how awful it is, right? And that's kind of what I wanted, right? It was like, man, if you don't have a little bit of controversy, and like that polarization of like, there are people who love this movie who are like, man, this is something that's so unique and you don't see enough of anymore.
Yeah.
And then like, it got skewered by a lot of critics. I mean, we even did a trailer with like, we like watch the film that the critics hate, and then we put all the disgusting, the worst film you will see all year, kind of thing.
That's
I
awesome.
vomited while watching this, kind of quotes coming in the trailer,
That's
which
awesome.
was fun. But yeah, I have been unfortunately disappointed in the reception on the film because it just hasn't landed like I hoped. I'd hoped that kind of controversy would stir a lot of interest and kind of bring it all to the forefront where people will say, I have to check this out because it sounds gross,
Uh-huh.
and it makes me think that maybe the audiences don't have that kind of level of, I mean, the world is a fucked up place. It's it only gets more fucked up by the day, it feels like. And,
Right.
and like, maybe people don't have that kind of dark humor bone in them anymore, to really embrace that, or there's just not
Mm,
enough people to do that. And it makes me sad to think about that because like it's totally my kind of humor. But
right.
it's just like maybe it is too on the nose of being dark satire comedy, right? I mean, it's not really satire, it's black comedy, like that's what it
Yeah,
is.
exactly. Yeah.
And it's like maybe it's too black comedy, it's too dark for people. Maybe people don't want to see homeless people orgies. But,
But I don't know if
I
I want to
do.
live in that world, Mike.
Exactly. I mean,
uh,
like I just look at this, I laugh. It's a cool movie, and the best thing with the Gweet brothers, Harpo and Lenny. Harpo's in the film, by the way, and then Lenny is not. So they're kind of like they've got the like kind of a Safdie thing going on, right? Two brothers,
yeah. Okay.
making the film. One of them accident.
Yeah.
And but Harpo and Lenny have been great. They've taken everything in stride, and they're making a fucking romantic comedy right now, and it's going to be the same kind of humor. So I'm looking forward to it, and it makes me happy that they're not taking kind of the kick in the balls, of the film going poorly, because it was really ill received in France. And it's a
Interesting.
Belgian film. Actually, they're Belgian filmmakers,
Right,
but
right, right.
Belgium is basically an extension of France, and it's kind of a big deal when a movie that was made with 50% French money doesn't do so well in French
Mhm.
theaters.
Okay.
But they've taken everything in stride, man. They're going to just keep going, making more films, and that's what we want. So we'll be hopefully working with them on their next one, and maybe it'll be a little bit more commercial, but I hope not. I hope they stick with their voice and lean into that, right? I do think people with time will discover Mother Schmuckers. I hope that the world gets to be a nicer place, and people will be willing to revisit it. And again, with the way that the digital platforms work, you're able to rediscover these things, and fairly
Yeah, yeah,
easily,
yeah, yeah,
So,
definitely.
will our Blu-ray be in stock? Probably not. Hopefully not. Right? Hopefully it sells out. But it will be there and ready for people to revisit it when they find that time.
Sometimes it's about timing too. I remember, and this will be a very quick tangent because this is not about Dark Star, but I remember right in the middle of the Al Qaeda scare, like 2007, 8, 9, when everything was like everybody was just nervous around, Al Qaeda, and that was like just a word that's being thrown around everywhere. I saw this little movie from the UK called Four Lions. Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah,
And I
that's
was like, that movie is amazing, and especially amazing for when it was made.
yeah,
Like a
yeah,
movie about four idiots that are not very good terrorists, but really want to be terrorists.
right. That
I
was
was just
what.
like,
Where was that? What that was that Toronto? I can't remember where I saw that one.
oh, I saw it on
Um,
DVD after it came out. But
no,
I
it was it
just,
was it was Sunday. I saw it at Sundance. Wow. Oh Jesus, that was like my first Sundance too.
oh wow,
Yeah.
nice.
So, no,
But
that's
I,
yeah.
but I think Mother Smuckers is kind of something in that line where it's like, not that it's not necessarily directly related. It's not, I wouldn't say it's tapping into any specific part of culture, but it's just maybe it's uncomfortable for people to watch, right? But that's kind of where the comedy's at.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
And again, for us, it's like we don't. Once a film is in our library, it's part of the family, right? So
oh,
we'll
cool.
we'll keep pushing it on people as much as we possibly can when the times are right, to revisit it. I always try to push it for Mother's Day because they're trying to get their mother's dog back, and most people don't really embrace that. But hell if we don't try,
I love it though. Yeah, their relationship with their mother is wild. Um, but she's actually a really funny character. I like the way she's written a lot. Well, okay, we can go on. The other one I just kind of thought would call out because I'm trying to find like that hook, the thing that kind of drew me in about these movies. The other one I want to call out, and I actually haven't checked. I hope this one is selling well. But I was watching King Car, excuse me, 2 nights ago, and I remember thinking like, damn, this director has an amazing grasp of atmosphere.
yeah,
And like it felt like there was moments where I felt like I was watching just because it's a Brazilian movie. What's the one? Oh shit, is it Children of Men? No, what's the one that came out that won all those awards like 15 years ago? Is it Children of Men?
City of God.
City of
Yeah.
God, thank you. Sorry, City of God.
Mhm.
There was moments where I think they captured not that it's anything related to City of God, but the way
Well,
they
it is thematically, you know.
okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, great. Well, then even maybe the analogy works even better. But just even the way that it was shot, I was like, this is somebody that is like a good filmmaker. Like they really understand like the technical sort of side of filmmaking, I think. And the story is interesting too, with kind of that Christine aspect, kind of a modern take on that.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think King Car. There's a lot of things that drew me into King Car, and the visual aspect is definitely top of that list. but and of course, it's just being like a weird ass story, right? But like, what Renata is saying there, really is a social commentary that City of God was doing, just much more on the nose, right? Like, this is like, look at how our world is here, is what City of God was saying. Come visit this world. Whereas, City of God is still kind of saying the same thing. They're saying, hey, but look how fucked up the government is, right?
Mm,
It. But like, for me, I've never been a fan of social commentary films that hit you over the head with it, because it's just too much. I think what Renata does is a beautiful job of masking what she's trying to say with just a very interesting film that, you could take or leave the social context of it, but it's certainly there, if you want to dig into it. And I love that, right? Like, that's a big thing for me with filmmaking. It's like, man, if you can get your point across, but do it in a cool way, and do it in a
yeah.
visually astonishing way, right? Like, and that movie was made for like close to nothing. I mean, they really did a lot with a little. But it's a film that I'm very proud of it for those reasons. It was a really strong success on the festival circuit, and it's a little bit of a slow burn in terms of how it's going, release wise. But I think it's consistent, right? A lot of films that we bring out have a real big splash at the beginning and then kind of fall off a cliff,
Mhm.
and go away. Whereas King Card seems to continue to find audiences and be very, it's instead of being a mountain peak, it's more of a plateau, right? And going across.
Uh-huh.
And, and that we love to see that, right? And I think people are discovering it, and, we'll continue to discover it and talk about it. And I mean, like, it is also just like, hey, King, the world of Brazil is fucked up. I mean,
Right,
it's
right,
if
right.
you watch Renata's video at the beginning of the Blu-ray, I don't know if you got into the special features much. You can hear her talk about it a little bit. We recorded that for Fantastic Fest, and
Yeah,
it's just kind of her intro into it, and she's very tongue in cheek about it all. But it's it is a fucked up world, man, and
yeah,
Brazil's suspect government, there.
yeah, for sure. Um, I love it, man. I really, really admire your passion for the filmmakers. I think that's come through extremely well. Love your taste in movies. Um, uh, I think this is a fantastic intro to Dark Star and to you. Um,
Thank
are
you.
there any questions that I have not asked as a way of having people get to know you, or anything that you'd want to make sure people hear?
Well, I think no, I think we covered a lot, and I appreciate you taking a look at what we're doing, and kind of understanding really what we're trying to do with films. And I mean, like, I don't want it to be also to be like we're some kind of robot machine, where we're trying to force people into watching our films. We think people have a good time watching our
Yeah,
content,
yeah, yeah,
and hopefully they take meaningful context away from that, or just become inspired to make a film themselves, to go out there, and also to know that there are homes for filmmakers. You could be an independent filmmaker and have a good partner, and you can have an awesome Blu-ray release and have your film widely available and be successful, without having to be forced into kind of the studio system. I think right now, with the strikes and things like that, independents are going to
yeah,
become even more important, as we were during COVID. We
yeah.
were the only ones coming out with new stuff. Not Dark Star, but the independents in general.
Right.
And I think it's important that people understand there are bigger. And I know your audience already does, so I'm kind of preaching to the choir. But there are lots of films out there. There are a lot of really awesome films being made. There are great companies, that are out there releasing, interesting stuff that people need to check out. And I just hope that people continue to broaden their horizons and not be just gouged by remakes and fucking superhero movies. But there's some cool superhero movies out there. But it's like it's just like I want people to broaden their horizon, because that's when I was a kid, that's, like I said, finding Kurosawa to me was like, whoa. And I'd already been a big fan of like Jaws and things like that. But when I saw Kurosawa, I was like, man, what else is there out there, right? And then I discovered
Exactly.
Godard, and I discovered all kinds of filmmakers that, still impact me today. And,
Mm.
I just want other people to have that same kind of feeling and embrace those kind of things as they come.
Wow, awesome.
So,
Uh, Beautiful. Um,
yeah.
Mike, thank you. Where is the best place for people to find you? Do you want people to contact you, or
Yeah,
where's it?
I'm an open book, man. I pride myself on accessibility. I'm just a dude from inner city Philadelphia, who's now out here in LA, and making my dream come true. So I love talking to people. I love being accessible. Check out our website, www.darkstarpics.com. Someone still owns darkstarpictures.com and they won't sell it to us, assholes. But the my contact's on there. I'm on IMDb. You can find me, Michael Repsch, but I prefer Mike unless you're my mother. We're around. We want to see, if you've got films, if people are out there and they got films and they don't know which way to go, hit us up. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to put you in the right direction, or partner up with you if that makes sense.
Awesome.
This is a small business, a lot smaller than people think. It's a small, small close knit world, and we're all friends. So there's a lot of good people, to work with, and I just want to encourage people to be active, reach out. Don't be shy. Hit me up.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Mike, thank you so much for the time today, and wild success to you.
Yep. Thanks so much, Chris. I appreciate you having me. And hey, if you want to check out any of our other films and you haven't seen them yet, just let me know.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate that.
All
Awesome.
right, brother.
Talk soon. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye now.